Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So this is going to be dedicated to the new Octarius lore. This has come out with the new Kill Team Octarius game. In that booklet there's a bunch of lore and this is what we're going to be discussing. It features Orks, Tyranids, Chaos, Eldar, anything you can imagine. This seems like a big old smash fest now. Now I just want to say a huge shout out to ShaskaisWarhamBits for providing this write-up. Without him this video wouldn't be possible. Please go over and check out his subreddit, link is in the description. So we start off with Inquisitor Kryptman and his short-sighted act of opportunism. The Octarius War, instead of wiping out the Tyranids and the Orks, has become a monster that many in the Imperium believe would grow to become too powerful for the Imperium to contain or defeat. Hundreds of systems were engulfed by the conflict, dragging in other factions such as the Eldar and the forces of Chaos. Kryptman's campaign of Exterminatus was the largest act of genocide inflicted upon the Imperium by its own forces. Kryptman's horrific decision saw hundreds of worlds purge of life, their populations consumed by the fires of Exterminatus. However, this slowed the advance of High Fleet Leviathan. Enter Inquisitor Naksewee, who was a vocal and dogged rival of Inquisitor Kryptman. He was among the first to call for his censure. He never believed that the Tyranids and the Orks would wipe each other out. To counter the possibility of the Xenos stalemate ending, he proposed the creation of the Cadian Impenetra system. Under this system, planets bordering Ork-held worlds would fortify and become warden worlds. They would then be front lines against any outbreaks from the conflict and send warnings to the rest of the Imperium. In addition, they would act as bases of operation for strikes against the warring Xenos to prevent one side from gaining too much of an advantage. For his cause, Naksewee gathered an immense and diverse collection of Imperial forces that include whole Space Marine chapters. These warden worlds are now facing repeated invasions and sieges by both the Orks and the Tyranids. Among the Imperial forces active on these worlds are many scores of regiments of the Death Corps of Krieg. Their arrival to this conflict has escalated it to a new level of brutality. Centered around this new Cadian Impenetra system, the Imperium is conducting a policy of aggressive containment. However, some voices speak for launching strikes on the Xenos lest they grow too powerful to the point that the warden worlds be peddlers in the front of the tide. Other voices call for defensive action. With disagreement in high Imperial command, Inquisitor Naksewee fears that he will lose the purpose of the Cadian Impenetra before it's fully realized. He must find a way to unite the Imperial commanders before losing any chance to avert complete disaster. The Orks of Octarius care not for the loss of their worlds. It just proves the weakness of the war bosses that ruled them, and it gives them a chance to fight and take them back. The Orks know that even after they defeat the Tyranids, the war won't be over. They will move on to hundreds of human worlds on their doorsteps to fight on. Currently, the Imperium doesn't detect any overarching strategy from the Orks. It seems that the Orks are merely working to maximize their mayhem, attacking any faction within the reach in the sector. High Fleet Leviathan is doing more than just consuming and growing. It's also learning. It's waging wars as if it's experimenting, testing its enemies and gathering data. Imperial observers theorize that High Fleet Leviathan's tendrils in the Octarius is biding its time while gutting itself on Ork biomass. What the tendril is doing with all the biomass cannot be fully understood. Reports suggest that the Tyranids are stockpiling the biomass gathered from the conflict in the ice of the asteroids and the polar caps of the dead worlds. Whatever the Tyranids' reason behind this latest action, it cannot be good. The Eldar look upon what mankind has created in Octarius and they despair. Beltan, Cadian and Sanhan are already active within the sector, with more craft worlds sending their forces to aid the containing growing threat. They have established beachheads in several war zones to ensure the balance of power doesn't tip from one side to the other. They have used psychic doomsday weapons to burn entire worlds to their biomass. Their operations weren't exclusively only to containing the Tyranids and the Orks. They have assassinated weak Imperial commanders so that stronger ones can take their place. This mayhem and disorder in the Octarius sector is irresistible for the Dark Eldar. The pickings are rich, varied and vulnerable. The terrified Imperial worlds are ripe targets for slave raids. Moreover, the warring Tyranids and Orks offer enticing fodder for the Dark City arenas. In addition to that, the homunculi are keen on capturing and examining the physical properties of the diverse Leviathan breeds. Even the Orks have caught their twisted interest. So tough are the Orks that they can withstand torture that would break other races. So it's a point of personal pride and testimony of the skill if a homunculus made an Ork scream in agony. Many compete over how quickly they can achieve this result. Due to the high casualties suffered by the Imperial Guard, regiments are merged to restore battle effectiveness and keep them close to full strength. Sometimes there has been efforts to merge regiments from the same planet, but it cannot always be done. The merging from regiments from different worlds can lead to mistrust and infighting that must be overcome to maintain combat efficiency. Despite these potential difficulties, such mergings can create some boons. For example, the merging of the regiment of the Talon Desert Raiders and the Euphorian Tunnel Rats regiment allowed them to pool their experience in tunnel warfare and learn from each other's tactics. This resulted in an effective fighting force that brought the fight to the Genestealer cultist in a constant underground warfare. Such positive results cannot always come from regiments merging. For example, when the Mordians and the Salvo Chemdogs mixed, their disunity and disagreements saw hundreds of guardsmen torn to ribbons by Tyranids, even as they argued and blamed each other. To keep the traditions of Cadian and its way of war alive, the surviving Cadian regiments are recruiting from other worlds who can withstand the Cadian training. Some of the Orks in Octarius have grown spectacularly rich by looting fangs of Tyranid biotitans. Teeth, after all, is the currency of the greenskin race. Pain Boys are experimenting with stitching Tyranid parts onto wounded Orks. So far, all that has accomplished is creating messy disasters, but it's only a matter of time before one of these insane experiments succeeds. One of the kill zones that is made out in this lore is Kill Zone Hive Usharov. Now this is between the Tau and some other forces. So when Shadow Sun left the Fifth Sphere expansion into the Chalnath expanse, she directed Commander Darkstar to bring the Ryatov system into the fold of the Tau Va. As the custom of the Tau commanders, Darkstar went to great lengths to persuade the Imperial governors of the Ryatov system to join the greater good. Watercast diplomats gave beautiful speeches highlighting the boons and benefits of belonging to their fielding but rapidly expanding empire. Citizens gave more moving testimonies on how their lives and worlds had changed for the better under the banner of the greater good. Darkstar was not naive nor foolish. However, he had seen many Imperial worlds refuse the enlightenment of the greater good. Though it saddened him that he knew this would likely happen in this system as well, as he negotiated continues, Darkstar ordered covert operations on the system worlds that would either move the discussion into the Tau's favour or make way for military conquest of the system. When Tau operatives started to go missing and human allies reported similar cases, Tau investigations concluded that it wasn't the work of Imperial enforcers or troops, but something else. Their suspicions were confirmed when a Genestealer cult uprising began. The Genestealer cult rose earlier than intended due to the Tau's arrival. They struck hard at many points and sunk their claws deep. As the Tau diplomats and the Imperial governors negotiated in the upper spires, the war escalated. The Tau brought in more forces to defend the enclave of their human allies. Local enforcers, gangs, and militars joined the war against the Genestealer cults. The cramped conditions prevented huge troop movements, so the fighting was done by small teams. Imperial, Tau, and Gene cults hunted and ambushed each other in the unforgiving labyrinth of terrain. When the governor of the Hive World concluded negotiations and refused the Tau, Darkstar got what he needed to commit his forces wholesale to the conflict. He unleashed his Tau forces upon the Hive World. In response, the governor called in for the aid of the Deathwatch. The Deathwatch had been watching the situation for some time. When the call for battle came, they answered. They committed many of their kill teams to the conflict. With the ideologies of the Imperials, the Gene Cultists, and the Tau locked in a brutal struggle, the Marines knew that they are fighting for as much of the soul of mankind as they are fighting for one of the Imperium's worlds. And that is where we are so far in the Octarius sector. We have Orks and Tyranids growing out of control. We have Orks attaching Tyranid limbs to themselves to be Orkanids, let's say. It's really kicking off. The Tau, the Deathwatch, and of course the Gene Stealer cults there are having a big old little battle on one of the Hive Worlds. I expect that to be an expansion at some point, but I hope you've enjoyed this new lore. If you've got any questions, anything like that, post it down below. I'll do my best to try and answer them. I would love to get your thoughts and feedback on everything that we've just discussed today. Post it down below and we can talk down there. See you now. Have a great day and bye-bye.